The Daily Jaws 50th Anniversary interview series is a collection of amazing conversations exploring the legacy of Steven Spielberg's screen adaptation of Jaws through the eyes of the fans. We'll be talking to famous fans, shark experts, people whose lives have been changed by the movie, and those that were there that helped to make the film. Today's episode has been made possible by Stern Pinball, the world's largest designer and manufacturer of arcade-quality pinball games. But we'll be telling you more about them later. We'll also be telling you about two amazing organisations that are very close to our hearts. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Do they think that would be okay to get this kid all caffeinated coming into the hospital and amped up more than he already is? And if that is what he's asking for, his mother, who is supposed to protect him and take care of him and make sure that he has a very productive and healthy stay in the hospital, would actually bring him with a smile and go, coffee, with a smile, and bring coffee. That is an absolutely ridiculous assumption.
No way. Is that in edition one?
Oh, there it goes. He's attacking.
Oh my God. What's going on? Hi guys, it's Ross at the Daily Jaws with another exclusive interview for the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Today's guest is a great one. He's a star of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Superbad, The State, and the director of 2022 thriller Outpost. Guys, please welcome Joe Lo Truglio to the show. Joe, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here. It's great to be in the Jaws community, like so many of us around the world. So happy to be here.
Honestly, thank you so much for making the time. We appreciate how busy you are, and obviously it was a real thrill to find out that you actually follow the Daily Jaws as well. So thank you so much for making time. Obviously, it's the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Now, you would have been, if I've done my research right, you would have been about 5 when Jaws came out. Do you remember sort of much around that time about Jaws, or did you see Jaws a little bit later in life?
I did see Jaws later, but I do have memories of when it came out, in that I moved from Queens, New York, down to Florida, where I grew up, in 1975. And my father went down there first. And while he was down there, saw Jaws. And then so he was alone seeing Jaws in Florida. And then my mom and brother and I came down. And my earliest memory is my dad taking my mom to go see Jaws. He would be seeing it for the second time, and I really wanted to go. And they said, and of course, my memory is embellishing the memory a little bit, but what I remember is my mom saying, "No, Joe, it's a movie about a thing that eats people." And I was hooked. I was immediately hooked. And I ended up seeing Jaws for the first time much later, I think on HBO, probably in 78. And I saw Jaws 2 actually in the theater before I saw Jaws.
Yeah. Oh, really?
That was so at 8 years old, I was visiting someone in New York, and my cousins took me to see Jaws in the theater, which was ironic that like at 8 years old I was able to see Jaws too, but I loved it, and saw Jaws after Jaws 2.
Wow. Do you think that had an impact on how you viewed Jaws? Because I watched them in the order they came out, but do you think it had an impact? Did you instantly say, okay, yeah, Jaws is much better than Jaws 2?
No, I don't think so. I know that I liked Jaws better. I remember feeling more drawn in by the original than, part of seeing Jaws 2 was like I was seeing a very, a PG movie at a very early age. And that was part of the excitement of Jaws 2, and the kids being torn apart, or their boats being torn apart. But I definitely was into the original more. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you had, I don't know, it's an odd question because you're not just a Jaws fan, you're also a filmmaker and a storyteller. As we know, you're an actor, writer, director. I mean, do you feel Jaws sort of influences your work or has inspired your work?
Jaws is the reason that I'm in this business. And the reason for that is Jaws was the first movie that made me want to understand how they did that. Like how this was working, how they were able to create not only the feeling, but how they actually put it on film and, how they did that shot. I mean, I was aware of these kind of visual assault that was happening and was able to say like, wow, this kind of jump outside it and be like, how are they doing this? So it made me want to make movies, Jaws. And it was shortly after I saw it that I started making my home movies with my Super 8, like so many filmmakers out there. It was the reason that got me into this business, Jaws. So
Yeah.
without question, it was the influence for the
Wow.
vocation.
That's incredible because the thing about Jaws as well, it's like beyond the shark thing, whether it's the fear or the fascination, because Jaws obviously made a lot of people afraid of the water, but it also inspired people to become shark experts and learn more about sharks and develop careers and things. Of obviously the filmmaking camp as well. There are people who have gone into special effects, acting, directing, and they always cite Jaws as some kind of influence and inspiration. So to see you as part of that camp as well is amazing. Um,
Yeah,
I guess we have to talk about, the craft of Jaws, because for me, it's still one of those movies that holds up as a perfect example of just craft in almost every aspect, whether it's the music, the
yeah,
script, the acting, particularly, as you say, you get drawn in. And I think when you look at the sequels of Jaws and also sort of shark movies in general, or even expanded to
yeah,
creature features, the characters kind of get left behind and they're just basically there for something the animal to kill. Whereas actually with Jaws, it's very much the other way around, where you're drawn in with the characters, a huge amount of
yeah,
focus. Each character is affected by the shark differently, and you kind of see the different ways of reacting to the same problem. And ultimately, one guy, the everyman, solving
yeah,
the problem. I mean, for me, I think it's a real movie of layers, and I think you can watch Jaws in so many different ways. What do
yeah.
you think Jaws means, or what do you think are the main themes of Jaws?
I, I mean, ultimately, this is, I feel like Brody is a character. Yes, he's the everyman, but he's also like so many of us doesn't understand how deep his fear and insecurity goes until it stares him straight in the face. And so I feel that, in a character like Brody that is, from New York, that is such a tough, iconic place to come from, and to be
Mm,
humbled by, an island and water. I mean, right? Hooper teases him about it, on that boat when he says, like, guy who's, is in Manhattan Island. And so, and here Brody is face to face with this deep fear. I mean, it's so hard to pin Jaws down to, like, what is it about? I mean,
mm,
another thing is how, this idea of something that you can't see, right? The depths of the ocean, is so primal. And yeah, that shark lives in that ocean, but how many of our fears kind of live in places that we can't see, and that don't exist? And so, that's another level of Jaws that I love diving into. Um,
mm.
this threat of this shark affects people that are on land. It affects economics. It affects politics. This thing that they can't even see, that some don't even believe is there, this threat. And that's one of the great things about Jaws that, I think kind of goes outside just a adventure or horror movie, is
Mm.
there are threats and dangers that people are, making affect their lives, that they can't even see. And I think that's such a, re- a respectable aspect of Jaws,
Yeah.
that I love.
I think it's a beautiful way to put it, because that particular that fear that you can't see, because Jaws, I don't know what it was like obviously in the US, but Jaws came back to prominence in the UK as a metaphor for COVID,
Mm,
particularly around lockdown, in terms of lockdown, lockout. Do we keep people in? Do we keep people out? Beaches closed, beaches open, and also
right.
just the way that the authorities were dealing with it. And people started posting Mayor Vaughan. Miles,
Oh,
people,
wow. Oh, I think I did see a couple of memes here about that. Yeah.
he is one of the most memeable characters I think I've ever seen in my life. But
Yes.
he sort of, the thing about Jaws for me, it's like there's obviously always a message with Jaws. And when Peter Benchley wrote it, he just sort of left working for Lyndon B. Johnson as a speechwriter. So he obviously had some experience of politics at the highest level, but he also knew the ocean very well. So you put sort of those two
Right.
experiences together, and you kind of get Jaws.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like when I first saw Jaws, I thought this is one of the first lessons I'm getting taught in authority. in terms of governance and administration and things like that. And I just think those people, one, don't always know what they're doing. Two,
Yeah.
they do ignore particular problems until it bites them in the arse and it's too late. And
Right.
three, they won't always have your best interests at heart. And I'm just like, wow,
Right.
what a message to take away when you're a 5-year-old kid and you've gone to watch a movie about a fish. It's mad.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, lessons and the trappings of bureaucracy are all over that movie.
Mm,
And it's great because one of the things I love about Jaws is just the structure of it, and feels like two different movies in terms of
mm,
we're on land and then we're at sea, almost directly at the midpoint. And that first act is you're dealing with all this bureaucracy. And what's
mm.
so and as a as a younger person, you don't really appreciate that much. You focus on all these characters, right? The mayor or the woman's shop owner. Like, I don't think that's funny. I don't think that's funny at all. And all these types of people of the town, these business owners. I'm, as a young kid, looking at the performance and the actors, right? But then when you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
old, like, wow, all of this is a bureaucracy that this town depends on this money. And then the second half, that bureaucracy is away, right? Now we're in a monarchy or a dictatorship, really, right? And
Mm,
it's just Quint. And it's wonderful to kind of watch Quint circumvent the first half of this movie. And he's just from afar until he has to get in the room and get everyone's attention, right? They
yeah,
have these
yeah.
great shots of like the rogue cowboy Quint, like just driving by the boat in that long shot, and he's waving as the Duttoos are trying to, claim a tiger shark is the guy. And he's always, and there's always the cool guys who are always outside that bureaucracy, waiting until it's about to collapse and fold on itself to come and be
Hmm.
like, all right, you want to really get this done? Because one person gets this done. Me, and the less people that we have, the better chance we're going to have of killing this thing. So I don't know. I love that dichotomy in Jaws.
Mm.
And then, once you get on that boat, it's just the Quint show. And they have that back and forth in Quint's shop and between Hooper and Quint, which is just so great. Him teasing him about his hands, and Brody saying like, well, it's my boat. It's my, it's your charter. It's my boat. So my charter, well, it's your charter. It's my boat. All that stuff is just, it's the best. You're just like, yeah, Quint, get after it.
Yeah.
So it's a long-winded way of saying, the politics and bureaucracy that is exposed in Jaws is really powerful.
Yeah. I honestly, and one of the questions I was actually going to ask you, but I think you just answered it in that question, was who would you play in Jaws? And clearly it's Mrs. Taft, isn't it? That's who you've got to play, right?
Right. Thank you. I couldn't remember her name. Yes.
That's
We did. Two of the guys in the state, David Wayne and Michael Showalter, and I wrote a play back in '96 called "Sex, aka Wieners and Boobs," and it was an absurdist play. And there's a scene. There's like a town meeting scene, and in that scene, I'm playing that person. I think I do like a Richard Dreyfuss, kind of like, Mayor Vaughn, what we have here is a perfect eating machine, right? I basically do the whole monologues because we're all big Jaws fans. Like, guys, I just got to do the monologue here of like, of Hooper going toe to toe with Mayor Vaughn. And so, it's just influenced so much of the creative work that I've
Yeah.
done even to this day,
Have you managed to sneak any Jaws references into like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or anything like that that we haven't spotted yet?
Man, I there's got to be. I don't remember specifically doing. Oh no, we did. I don't know if it made the cut. But it was during a Thanksgiving episode, and we're trapped in a bathroom, and I think the director Victor Nelly did this kind of push in to Boyle, and it was something with Quint in the chalkboard scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was something like get the head to tail the whole damn thing. It was talking about the turkey, like we'll do the head to tail the whole, something like. So there was something like that. I can't remember if it made the cut of the episode,
Man.
but it was in there. Yeah.
That's
for sure.
fantastic
Yeah,
because you see Jaws references popping up all over the place in sort of whatever movie it is or whatever it is, particularly creature features.
everywhere.
Would you bear with me just for 1 second? I just need to do something just for
Yeah.
2 seconds. Thank you. Sorry, Joe. Bear with me just one moment.
All right.
Ah, Joe.
Oh, Jeffrey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, man. Wow, what a
Wait,
treat.
I don't know how I'm gonna get. I can't. Oh, I see my video. Fuck.
There you
All
go.
right.
How about this? How about this incredible daily Jaws account that's kept alive
Unbelievable.
the love of the
I knew
movie?
before he even started it. He said, "Oh, he's got a real job now."
Yeah.
Dreyfus used to be the godfather to one of my kids.
Dreyfus. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Richard. Richard, we were having our first kids too. And he said, "Can you come up the hill and bring some chicken from Greenblatt's, which is a old deli
Yeah,
on Sunset?"
absolutely.
I said,
Yeah.
"Sure." We went up there, and within 24 hours, both women delivered babies. We blamed it on the Greenblatt's chicken.
Wow. That's got to be special aside from making that movie, which I mean, of course, I don't know if you guys knew it was going to be what it was, but having that experience of a castmate having a child, we experienced that on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I had my first kid and a couple of the other cast members, and that just really cements the whole experience.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
Know? And similarly, I would imagine that was the same.
It was awesome. But during the shooting of this, we always thought they were going to pull the plug. It was over budget. They had shot every set out, so they had to add scenes. So my part got a little bigger as time went on because their chart didn't work, and they had to shoot something. They had 2-3 units some days going at the same time, and they couldn't shoot anything. So,
did they have any scenes with you that didn't make the movie?
I don't think so. Most of mine got in there, but they got a little more as time went on. And Stephen was still Stephen then, you know?
Right.
So one year I ended up, I was David Kelly's producing partner and president of his company. And he said, I'm getting an award of the Writers Guild. Could you pick it up for me? I can't go. I said, oh, I'd be happy to. And Stephen is presenting. So in front of 600 people in the Writers Guild, I think, oh, this is going to be so cool. He goes, oh, Jerry, I'm so proud of you. And I thought, oh, my God. He goes, no, it's Jeffrey. I didn't say that. I just saved it to eventually tell you. And I once went through a stop sign. A cop pulled me over and he said, you know, you went through the stop sign. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't go over that far. He goes, why are you wearing that hat? I said, oh, I played the deputy in Jaws. And he goes, oh, I love that movie. Don't do it again. So I wear it now like it's going to protect me forever. And I don't want to hijack your interview, but great fun. And I'm a big fan of yours. So it's all good.
Same, Jeffrey. Really a pleasure meeting you, for sure.
Thanks, Ross.
No worries, Jeffrey. Thank you, mate.
All right.
Take care,
guys.
bud.
Bye.
Bye.
He does that from time to time. He just kind of gate crashes interviews. So I'm sorry.
Oh my God! Had you told him about it, or he was just coming on? Just good.
I told him all about it. We've been planning it for about a week. Like literally, like when Joe comes on.
Thank you. Like I've been wanting to meet him for a while, so I appreciate that.
So we've been talking about the craft of Jaws before we were rudely interrupted by the Amity PD. And as I said before, I think Jaws is just one of those perfect examples of perfect movie craft. I mean, is there any one particular aspect of Jaws that you think really stands out in terms of just really raising the bar in terms of filmmaking storytelling?
The music for me, and even aside from the Jaws theme, the music for me is such a bloodstream of the movie. Like because it the kind of dreamlike beginning when you're underwater and it kind of has the tickling of those keys right into, like, you know, the harmonica at the bonfire and that kind of excitement that kind of and it shrinks, that sound shrinks in that scene, and then we really start with the good stuff with the theme, right? The adventure music at the end when that orca swings around and you're getting that I guess that little outcropping there right in your face, and you're zooming alongside it. And it's such a it infects the world of the movie so much that that's one thing that I always go away from in that movie. The shots we could all take apart, right? And the editing in particular, there's just so much, like more than anything about the writing, all that. But the music, for me, is truly the lifeblood of this movie. I think it really keeps the kind of the your heart, just attached to what pumps life into this movie, and it brings you along with it. And even when there's no music, I'm trying to think of a good example of that. I guess a lot of the town meeting stuff, there's nothing there, obviously, but I don't know. I would say that's a big part of that movie for me, that really elevates it.
I think you're absolutely right, and I've never really heard it described as the lifeblood of the movie, or the heart of the movie, because obviously, aside from the technical problems with the shark, and Spielberg is on record as saying that John Williams gave him the shark he didn't really have, it became a signature, for something that we couldn't see, and it put it in our imagination. And I think a lot of movies, they've tried to take the Jaws approach when it comes to creature movies, where they try to hide the creature as much as possible, or they will try and use something to mask it. So Spielberg used the water in Predator, they used the jungle and all those other things. But also as well, I think that the point that you make about the town scenes, the music really was specifically around the shark, and that was really, really clever. And if thinking back, it's the first thing that we actually get introduced to when we turn the movie on, because it's in darkness, and it's the first 2 or 3 notes of the movie. So that's the first thing you hear, and they implant that firmly in your mind before you even see the credits. And it's just like, that's genius. That's really, really smart. And that's what I mean by craft, making really smart decisions and making sure that the characters are absolutely at the forefront of the story, so that when it does all go wrong and they're in danger, you genuinely feel for these characters.
Yes, and even to jump on a little bit more, like in that first half of the movie, some of the music, the kind of diegetic music in there, like the bonfire scene, but also like the parade, right? All these people, the cacophony of people, and the band sounds. These are sounds of, like, high schools, innocence, children, adults, fun, party. Even at the beach. There's the sound. I'm kind of mixing up a little bit between, like, the sound of the dialogue and the ambient sound with the music, but it's working together, because once you get out to sea, it's quiet, and then that you're like, there is no people, there are no parades, there's no 4th of July, there's nothing out here but the boat and the 3 guys and the shark, and again, that music, diegetic or otherwise, just really enforces that, and you don't even know what's happening. Like, the Amity's fun. Before the shark came, it looked great. You got the video games there on the beach, the shark tack, sure, but there's people having ice cream, and they're going in, they got the rafts, and you're just hearing laughter, and you're hearing squeals, and you're hearing all of this stuff, and then you don't hear it once we go through the shark mouth and in Quint's window. Then we're done and we're out there. So I really do feel like the music in so many ways affects your whole experience of this movie, and and plays with the fear buttons a little bit. Yeah, because the music in the first act, other than when the shark comes, is not that scary. It feels kind of vibrant.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah, wonderful. In terms of the acting and the casting, what do you think about that? I mean, I personally, there's only one other movie that comes to mind when you think about those 3 main characters, but we'll come on to that. Tell me what your thoughts are about the acting. Obviously, being an actor yourself and have really been super successful, it's like, you must look back at those movies and go, I want to copy this, borrow a bit of this, that's inspired me to do this. Yeah. What do you think about the acting?
It's such a great mix of styles, so for each of those actors, and their styles is so appropriate for their for their characters, obviously. But I mean, like Richard Dreyfuss seems like kind of an intellectual, uppity kind of snob, that style of the quick talk, the cadence, his mannerisms. It's, then you have old school guy, Robert Shaw, just trained in the theater and can drink like a fish and is from like those Hellraisers like Reed and Burton and those guys, right? And that shows in his acting as well. And then Scheider, who is, already like a leading guy at that point, but also, I mean, Scheider's the one that's most difficult to kind of articulate why his acting is so good in that, or his style. And part of me is, it feels like there's like a humor and a wink that is that I connect to watching that as an actor, that I think the audience also connects to. Some of that is the writing, of course, but like the way his looks of what's with this place, Emily? Who's this small town? These small town weirdos, and but like you could read some of that. And like, man, I miss New York City. Like this type of disconnect would not be having in New York City. And it's all kind of boiled down in Roy Scheider somehow. And so I think it's such a great triangulation of styles that really enforce the characters they're playing.
Yeah, that is. And the thing is that, like, I think there's only one other trio of actors, because obviously the three lead structure is a very odd one. You don't see it very often in a movie. You've normally got the star and then the supporting characters, but obviously with Jaws there's three. There's only one other movie that I've seen, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the call, because I've championed this movie, but there's a movie that you're one of the supporting characters, and it's got a three lead structure, and for me it's perfectly cast. And it's on par with Jaws, in my opinion. And I've never really seen it again or since. Do you want to have a take a punt at what that movie might be?
Superbad?
Nope.
Is it Paul? No.
Nope. Earlier than that.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, now it's all right.
This is a deep cut that I was Wet Hot? No. No, not Wet Hot American Summer. Oh my God. Wow.
You play one of the supporting characters in it.
Role Models? No.
Nope.
Oh my God. I love you, man. There's that is a movie that I was in.
Honestly, for me, this is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It's like Jaws in the fact that I can go back and watch it. And I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
The final shot is the three characters all just sat together, and you just know it's going to be okay.
Oh my God.
I'm just wondering what other clues I can give you. Hold on.
This
is fantastic. I can't believe you're not getting it. This is great.
The station agent.
Yes.
Yes.
The station agent.
God.
Hey guys, it's Ross. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the series. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about some of the organizations that we've been working with that help make this episode possible. Stern Pinball, the oldest and largest designer and manufacturer in arcade quality pinball games. Here is their Jaws game.
Fire the harpoon! Fish.
Well, nothing's easy, is it?
This shark will eat anything.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Pretty cool, huh? Well, Stern don't only make pinball machines, they've also made a generous donation to the two organisations that we're spotlighting throughout the series. Minorities in Shark Sciences, or MISS for short, a non-profit founded in 2020 that champions diversity in shark, ray and marine sciences. MISS creates equitable opportunities for historically underrepresented communities through hands-on programs and believes that diverse scientists bring diverse ideas, driving the innovation essential for ocean conservation. Representation matters, and MISS is making sure the next generation sees a place for themselves in marine biology. Learn more and support their mission at missalesmo.org. The mission of the Tourette Association of America is to provide help and hope to those affected by Tourette syndrome, tic disorders, and associated conditions through awareness, research, and support. It's the only national organisation serving the community and works to raise awareness, advance research, and provide ongoing support to patients and families impacted by Tourette syndrome and tic disorders. To this end, the Tourette Association of America directs a network of 31 chapters, 83 support groups, and recognises 18 centres of excellence across the country. It's a non-profit organisation and is extremely close to the heart of not just Jeffrey Kramer, but also his family. Guys, thanks for listening. Let's get back to the conversation.
I haven't thought about that movie in a while, which is ironic since Bobby Cannavale we went to high school together. I'm still very close with him. So Bobby's my oldest friend. And Peter Dinklage, I knew well before a station agent. So I met Tom McCarthy through Bobby, and we all kind of floated around in the same circles in New York around the same time. And man, what a great movie. And yeah, you're right. You're right. Incredible. That's amazing.
Honestly, because
I had a great memory of doing that movie too.
It really caught me off guard because I just genuinely didn't know what to expect. So I picked it up in a charity shop for like 50p here in the UK. I read the back of it and I really liked Patricia Clarkson and I'd seen Bobby and Peter and a couple of things. I thought I'll give this a go. And honestly, I was just like,
did you watch it? When did you see it?
I saw it about probably 10, 15 years ago, but I watch it at least once a year. I mean, it's just one of those movies, and like I don't, for people that haven't seen it, because it is quite a small independent movie, but I mean it's just fantastic. When you look at the three actors, they are so perfectly cast, particularly Bobby. Bobby is so funny. He's so good in that film.
He's the best.
He is. He's awesome. But when it was weird because I watched it again recently, and I started to understand why I liked it so much. At the very end of the movie, you know the characters are going to be okay because it's just a shot of them sitting on a porch, I think it is. Right. You know they're going to be okay, and you're glad they're going to be okay. And that is exactly how I felt when I watched Jaws and Hooper and Brody were coming back to shore. I was just like, they're going to be okay. It's all right. Until bloody Jaws 2 and then another fish turns up.
Yeah. At least for 3 years. That's so true. And like in Jaws, like that last moment, getting back to the music, it's so, again, as they're kicking back to shore, that uplifting, those strings it's just wonderful. And I remember liking, as the credits went, you finally kind of see them get to shore. I always kind of loved that because then they were definitely okay. They're on land.
Well, the thing is, lots of people don't actually realize that Hooper and Brody are actually coming back to shore in the background. They just think it's a shot of the beach. So we've actually posted and highlighted it and like zoomed in and gone, they're coming back, right? They actually do make it to land. And they're like, I've never seen this. I've been watching this movie for like 50 years and I've never noticed that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
There. Yeah.
Let's talk about sharks, because obviously sharks play a big part in Jaws. How did Jaws make you feel about sharks when you watched it, and has your opinion changed over the years?
I was always when I saw Jaws, I became obsessed with sharks. I started to draw a lot of sharks. In fact, I have old crayon drawings of Jaws Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, going up to like Part 16, and they're just construction paper made by a 6 and 7 year old with blood around. I was able to do the actual shark from the poster. I had it down like the arc and 3 arcs, and then get some triangles in there. I was able to do it pretty well at a young age, and was completely obsessed with sharks. I was never afraid to go swimming in the beach after Jaws. Unless I was like, I couldn't see, unless I got it too far out and couldn't see the bottom. But there was never any problem going like in this near the surf area.
Mm.
I'll watch any shark documentary, especially about great whites.
Okay.
Anytime it's on TV. I mean, I haven't swam with sharks. I don't have any desire to swim with sharks. There was a time when I was a younger man that I'm like, I'm going to go in a cage and try to, go out to the reef and got to try to see a great white, get on some shark tour. But, I don't feel an overwhelming need to do that anymore. But I mean, if it was presented to me, yeah, I'd probably take it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've always been such a fan of just the animal, and that it never turned made me feel differently one way or the other after seeing
Yeah.
it.
It's interesting because a lot of people fall in that fascination or fearful camp. But I think over the time, now that people have come to understand sharks a bit more, they understand that Jaws is not a documentary. Spoiler, it's
Right.
not.
Yeah,
But also we're
right.
starting to understand these animals a bit more, particularly through things like drone footage and stuff. We can just see how they interact with humans and how more often than not, they actually just leave us alone. They're just curious about kind of
Yes.
what we are.
Yeah.
Now, you're not obviously just a fan, Joe. You're a fanatic. I mean, looking in the background, you've got some pretty cool stuff there. I'm very curious about that framed box that you have there. Tell me about that.
Yeah, this frame box here is a actual piece of the boat of the Orca. This is my most prized possession. It was gathered by a friend whose family lives on Martha's Vineyard, and this was beached. You probably can't see it, maybe a little bit. It's a little bit of a wreck there. This was beached on someone's property. And so it started to kind of decay and disappear year after year. And finally, a buddy of mine just kind of decided to take the risk of trespassing and just get onto that beach and grab a piece. I'm forever grateful. But yeah, that it's got the kind of what do they call them, the barnacles on there as well. So it's yeah, a real piece. Small,
Nice.
for sure.
It's awesome. It's
behind
awesome.
me are great artists. Of course, I'm forgetting their names, but this I got from a gallery, the Here Gallery in LA. They had an exhibition strictly for Jaws.
Very nice. Very well. As you can see, I mean, there are some absolutely epic collections out there. I've got a few pieces. This is like a small part of what I have, but this is kind of what. So, for example, like obviously this is my Bruce Shark, which I absolutely adore and love. And I've got some, even though it's not actually accurate, but it is. Oh,
there it goes. He's attacking.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! What's going on?
He's on you.
Do you know what happened there?
Alarmed.
There was
This
something.
is just a natural instinct of these animals.
Oh my word. Yeah, exactly. To attack. Oh my God. Joe, give me a moment. I just need to put my life back together. But yeah, so I've got like the old spice bottle here, which it's not exact, but I saw it because that's what Brody puts on his towel when he's chumming.
Oh, that's right. Oh, you know what I forgot to bring up too is I have an Narragansett can, beer can. I'm sure. There you go. There it is. Good. I'm glad.
I've got the squeezy,
the
stress one.
Very
they do
nice.
a squeezy one.
Styrofoam cup to go right with it.
That comes in handy. And then we got replica tanks, all kinds of stuff. I bought this on eBay though. This was just like a luminous Jaws shark thing. Cool. Although some neighbors think it's like a sign for the red light district, and I'm like, I need to close my curtains whenever I put it on. Otherwise, you kind of get the wrong thing. But this is pretty cool. This is another one that's pretty cool. This is a tiki cup made out of a barrel, and it was done by a company many years ago.
Oh, that's neat.
And it was signed by Joe Alves. We do something similar. It's like a koozie kind of thing. But I'm really proud of that because Joe.
I got something for you. Hold on. I feel like we're going back and forth showing scars. Hold on.
We're doing the scars. I was just about to say this is exactly what this has turned into.
I have an original printing.
No way. Is that an edition one?
This is yes, it is.
Wow.
And here we
go. Those are super rare now.
And this is such a creepy looking shark. Like I just love it.
It's brilliant because there's
So,
so, again, less is more with Jaws. Even on the poster, I mean, Roger
yeah.
Castell's artwork is fantastic, but on the book, it's amazing. And also, interesting story. Someone picked up on that particular design of the Jaws poster and then started to analogize Jaws with what's the word I'm looking for? Should we say female dominance of the male? Because the shark looks like a certain sorry, no,
Yeah,
male
exactly.
dominance of the female because it looks like a certain thing. Should
Yeah,
we say?
a certain shape, certain. Yeah, looks like
Yeah.
looks like a penis. It looks like a penis.
Thank you, Joe.
this this kind of rendering of this shark I kind of like because it doesn't really have any eyes, and it's
Mm,
such a creature of the dark and of the unknown, and even like the teeth are not the teeth that we're used to seeing in the poster, and it
no.
just feels less like a shark and more like this kind of blind creature of the dark that lives in the
Yeah.
recess of every nightmare that we have.
Yeah.
I
It's
just thought
and
it was quite
I think
a
the interesting thing
rendering.
about that as well is it's because it's in the darkness, it has no eyes, that kind of, it's just indiscriminate. And that's what the shark does as well. It doesn't really go for
Yes.
anything in particular apart from a vulnerable prey. But other than that, it's not really discriminating.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so obviously you've got a copy of the book, a first edition, which I'm extremely jealous of. What did you think of the book compared to the movie?
Well, I like the movie more. I haven't read the book in a while, but I remember when I did read it, that a lot of like the affair with Hooper and Brody's wife. That I'm dropping the ball.
Ellen.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Was it just felt I wasn't that interested in it really, and it took up real estate, and the mafia, all of that stuff. Although it adds a certain texture and really kind of enforces the bureaucracy stuff that goes on in Amity. It just isn't as exciting to read than those descriptions of the shark that he
Mm.
does, which I think is just wonderful. There's something obviously quite dramatic about Quint being caught in that harpoon rope and taken down.
Mm.
But I'm glad that changed for the movie. I mean, there's just nothing more iconic than that scene of
Yeah.
losing Quint. And so, yeah, I think the changes were spot on.
Yeah. I agree.
What did
I
you think
agree.
of the book?
Well, the thing for me is I think the book is it's actually a missed opportunity for the Jaws universe, but then it's a quite unrefreshable idea trying to bring back a fish, for 3 or 4 times. We saw that with Jaws: The Revenge, which incidentally, if you like reading and movie books or novelizations, Jaws: The Revenge, the novelization is fantastic because it explains about why the shark is motivated. It's some kind of voodoo curse, and there's actually a chapter in the book, I believe, which is from the shark's point of view. It is brilliant.
Wow, I will check it out because
If you can get a copy of
I've
that,
seen the movie once.
it's absolutely brilliant. But no, I thought the book was good. I think obviously the characters needed changing. It wouldn't have worked in a movie. It just wouldn't. And that's Spielberg's touch and gift. And recruiting Carl Gottlieb, I think, was a stroke of genius in terms of the screenwriting. But there is one particular plot point that I think could have been really interesting if they pursued it in a slightly different direction, which was a little bit more about what the original Jaws 2 was going to be like. Jaws 2 originally was going to be written and directed by John D. Hancock and his wife Dorothy.
Oh yes.
And it was going to be much grittier, and it was going to be much more about the town's economic fallout from the first shark attack and how it's still recovering and all this kind of stuff. It was going to be much darker. And then things didn't work out with John, so they brought in Jeannot. And we got a very different type of Jaws 2, but I think pursuing the grittier, darker, town-focused story, I think, could have been more interesting, possibly even into something like a mini-series, like Midnight Mass comes to mind, something like that.
Yeah,
Where there's, but again, that's just my thought.
yeah.
Do you think? Because obviously we've got Jaws, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, Jaws: The Revenge, and the shark movie seems to be sort of, I don't know, alive and well at the moment. Obviously, we're getting all different kind of incarnations.
Yeah.
Do you think Jaws could be remade or rebooted or anything like that?
I wouldn't say it could be remade, but I mean, I love the idea of a Jaws universe, except that
Mm.
you know, if you were to, it's so hard to bring a shark back, right? Like you were saying, I mean, that's the key piece. I think really where the expansion happens is events that take place before the shark gets to Amity. And I think that would be an interesting exploration. I can't imagine what that story would be, but it really could be anything, right? I mean, is it just another coastal town, or are we in another part of the world? There was a book called what was about? I'm forgetting what it was called, but it was about an actual event of a shark that went up the river in Jersey, in Matawan, I think.
This was in 1916. Yes, yes, I know. Yeah,
bull shark. I think it was a bull shark that I've always had a fantasy to do, and I think it actually was made somewhere. I think it was turned into a movie. Are you familiar with that at all?
I'm familiar with the story, but I'm not familiar with the book or the movie you might be referring to. But everything gets made into a movie or a book. So
I'll send you some info on the book. The book is great, and I read it, and I've been highlighting because it getting back to why Jaws works so well, and it's about those characters. This book is full of those people in the town that live near this river, that go down to the river, that fish and swim in the river, and that's an area that I think can really help make this story really one worthy of telling, because the shark out in the ocean is one thing, but a shark in your backyard is another whole thing. That is even closer to the safe space of the home, and those waters there in that river, it's all murky, it's muddy, and there's just lots of ways logistically to work this movie in terms of shooting it and not having to see the shark, as well as different characters from different economic classes, because the shark attacks kind of a very fancy hotel area, and then it kind of goes up towards a less economically affluent area, and there's a lot there. So I mean, that's a shark project that I would love to see done. Obviously, would love to be part of that. But I will send you the book.
Send me the info. Absolutely.
Find some information on the movie as well. From what I looked into, the movie wasn't very good. I haven't seen it, but I was reading about it, and I think I saw a clip of it, and it didn't seem to be that great. But in any case, the book is fantastic. The actual nonfiction account of what happened is great.
Oh, awesome. Well, what we'll do some research into it, as you say, send me some info, and I'll definitely take a look. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of the questions, and I've got a little thing that I'm doing with every guest that I'm speaking to, and it's the controversial questions, Joe. So these are questions that we posted on social media for our followers, and these always get very, very interesting, sometimes bordering on physical fights, if that's possible on social media. So the first question, So the first question, cast your mind back in Jaws. This is the first one. There's a scene in the hospital where Michael has he's sort of had his shark encounter, and he's been pulled out of the water with shock, and he's being wheeled out through what we think is the main reception by a doctor who looks glaringly into the lens of the camera, if you look closely. And Ellen asks Michael a question. Would you like your cars? Would you like your ice cream? Whatever it is. And she says, would you like coffee or ice cream? And he says, coffee. Now, do you think he's wanting coffee ice cream, or do you think he's wanting just coffee? What is he wanting?
I think he wants coffee ice cream, and that's how I've always. That's so funny you say that. I thought the question was going to be, do you remember the ice cream flavor? But the question was slightly different than what I expected, and I always heard coffee ice cream. Now, maybe it's because that was my favorite ice cream flavor at that age. I love coffee ice cream. And so it resonated with me when he said that. And now I need to, I'm remembering his scene. How is it phrased again? Is it not clear whether it's coffee or coffee ice cream?
It's not clear. It's not clear.
And is those that are on the side that he's asking for coffee, are they like it? At this day and age, it just seems, who would you give a 12-year-old kid coffee? But I guess back in the 70s, it wouldn't matter. That's their argument. Is that the argument? I see.
This is the thing.
I feel the ire already rising up, and they think that would be okay to get this kid all caffeinated coming into the hospital and amped up more than he already is. And if that is what he's asking for, his mother, who is supposed to protect him and take care of him and make sure that he has a very productive and healthy stay in the hospital, would actually bring him with a smile and go, coffee, with a smile, and bring coffee. That is an absolutely ridiculous assumption. A ridiculous assumption. It's coffee ice cream. That's what you have in the hospital when you get your tonsils out. When you're there just for stitches, it makes you feel good and safe. It's coffee ice cream, and I'll accept no other argument.
That is, wow. Case closed, everybody. The defense rests. Do you know what? Just think, because no one's quite got into that question with quite as much passion as you have. But you know what? There's a real case that Ellen Brody is actually one of the worst mothers in cinema history, because obviously we've just explored the coffee ice cream. But there's a fantastic moment in Jaws, which I absolutely love, where it's during the 4th of July scene, and Ellen's looking for Martin. She sees him and she goes, "I've got Sean." The next shot is Sean. She hasn't got Sean. He's running across the beach. She has no idea where her child is. So it's like, maybe Ellen Brody is possibly the worst mother in cinema history.
You know, it's not a bad argument. Now that you say that, you're right. You know, you see him running, and then you see him kind of alone singing Muffin Man.
Yeah.
Right. And with no one around. It's very true. She's clearly hasn't kept in shape, because she's holding her stomach as Michael's in trouble. You know, you're right. She flirts right in front of her husband. You know, when they're having the wine at dinner, she's loving everything Hooper is saying. I mean, that's not so much the mother; it's more of a criticism of her marriage. I've never thought about this, but I'm quite tickled by the shortcomings of Ellen. I mean, she did let him in the boat until she kind of saw the picture, right, of the shark attacking the hull of the boat. You're right. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of signs there. She wasn't quite on top of it.
Oh my God. Oh, we can never watch Jaws again. Okay. I know. Well, that didn't go quite the direction I thought that answer was going to go in, but fantastic. Okay, next controversial question. You can save one character from Jaws, so the original. Chrissy, Pippet, Alex, Ben Gardner, the estuary victim, or Quint. Who are you saving and why?
What a great question. You know, I'm going to let Quentin Ben Gardner go, because because I feel like, in particular, Quint's death is so mythic, and that it's almost couldn't have happened any other way for him to live on in that. I think it's going to be Alex. Because I want to see what kind of person Alex would have grown up with, a mother who was strong enough to go face to face with a sheriff and give him a slap. And one that, you know, was disciplined enough to see how much pruning was going on with the fingers, but gave enough leeway to let him go out for one more time. I think Alex, you know, was just trying to have fun. Was a good lad, you know, asked permission to do things. I feel like he was adventurous. He went out on that. No one else had a raft. He went out on that raft and went out a little bit farther. I think we could have seen a lot from Alex. And I think Ben Gardner and Quint have lived their lives. Tippett didn't know what happened to him. Tippett was gone too quick. Tippett was out before he even knew he was out. Chrissy's the only one that I was back and forth on, because she just seems fun. She seemed fun and sexy, and you don't like to see any person, male or female, who's as fun and sexy go out that quickly in that way in the dark. But she had to kind of start legend. So, she had her character had her own responsibility. It's going to be Alex.
Yeah. Okay. Good answer. What? And you've also.
Can I ask what yours was?
I would probably lean to Alex as well, I think. Obviously, because a lot of the reasons that you've said that I hadn't actually considered before, but you kind of look at him and you think, yeah, he's living with a strong, independent mother, a lot to learn. No father figure by the looks of things, potentially. So it's like, okay, so he may have gone into grown into a really good man and respecting women, all that kind of stuff. Who knows? He could have been like, the next mayor of Amity, for example, in a couple of generations' time or whatever. He had his future robbed of him. But yeah, I mean. But I'm a plant-based person, so Pippet as well for me. By the way, is Pippet, not Tippet, by the way.
Oh, Pippet, not Tippet. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because the other question I was going to ask you, did Pippet live or die? Because we don't actually see him get killed.
Yeah, I like to believe that Pippet lived. And that he, got thirsty or hungry and kind of got out of the water before his owner saw and was just kind of running around to lick some child's cheek,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I did a video.
Some seagull,
Well, I did a video about Pippet a few years ago, and it was just to explore, the history of the dog in terms of his life on the island, all that kind of stuff, and how he came to becoming Jaws. But also, did Pippet die? And the scene where just after the estuary attack has happened and Michael is being pulled out of the water, Chief Brody's running down the bridge and then he jumps over it.
Yeah. Is there a dog
there's a black Labrador on that bridge. So I'm like, did Pippet live?
Excellent observation. I never noticed that. Wow. That's fantastic.
Possibly. So hopefully Pippet lived, but we don't know. It could just be another black Labrador.
Yes.
So one more final controversial question and then we'll round up.
I love that. I love the controversial questions.
Okay, well, wait till you hear this one, because this is like a nuclear bomb going off in the Jaws community, whenever you ask it. Why didn't they take Hooper's boat? Not just instead of, but as well as.
Oh, as well as. Yes. Oh, that's a great question. How did I never even think of it? Let's see. My instinct is, if it was instead of, obviously Quint wouldn't have had that. Like Quint was going to have his boat, but you're saying in addition to, right?
Possibly, yeah.
That's a great point. I'm going to have to say that there, and it's Hooper's boat, right? It's not the place he works for.
He says when he's on the boat with Brody just before they discover Ben Gardner, he says he pays for most of this stuff himself. And then when Brody's like, "Oh, are you rich?" and he's like, "Yeah."
Right, yeah. Oh man, I have no idea. What a
tough
great
one, right?
question.
Yeah,
like no, they had it. It was. Yeah, man. How did they get around that? How did they get around that hole? What were some of the theory? My if I had to say one is that that Hooper didn't want to. Hooper would have brought it. I have no idea. I have no explanation why they want to do that unless it would have somehow hurt the hunt for the shark, but it absolutely would not have. And in fact would have helped a tremendous amount if they had another.
No, you see, the thing is, the greatest line in Jaws is, "You're going to need a bigger boat." It's no, you're going to need another one, and we've got one.
We got one right here. I wonder if Hooper had kind of parked it in the marina in a bad place, and the boat was towed. He doesn't bring it up.
Sorry, what I was going to say was, and this is kind of echoing what a few of the other guests have said so far. It's like it's Quint's thing. Like it's like, I'm not going to let anybody else interfere. It's my way or the highway. You're lucky to be coming along on this ride with me. Otherwise I'd be going alone. Because he says it. Maybe I should go alone. So that's the only kind of thing where I think, oh yeah, maybe that's what it is. But yeah, it's a great question, isn't it?
It's a great question, and I would agree with that. With that idea, which is the scene that we didn't see is like, and we're going to bring our boat. He's like, "You're not bringing your boat."
Yeah.
Quint, you got to be ridiculous. We got everything on this boat that we need. And it's like, oh, I don't care. He's just saying like, you know what? It's just my way, the highway, and we'll leave it at that. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
So, just in terms of just rounding things up, obviously, as we said, this is for the 50th anniversary. I mean, it's 50 years since the movie came out and 51 since the book came out. Why do you think we're still sitting here talking about Jaws, Joe? Like, what is the longevity? What's the secret to this movie?
I think Jaws ultimately is a nightmare that is conquered on screen, and we see it being conquered by someone that isn't particularly heroic, and is able to defeat the biggest monster, both in his imagination and in front of his face. And I think that is a story that will just span the test of time, and that's why it's still with us. I personally feel fortunate to be able to say that the movie Jaws has been with me my entire life. That when I came into this world, Jaws was there. It'll still be there after I leave, but I've been able to have a relationship with the movie and what it's done for me from 5 years old, and it's grown and changed, and it's been with me and has a life of its own, and is my friend, for 50 years. And it's a friend that I learn something new and discover something new about every time I hang out with that friend and chat.
That's exactly that's perfect, because that's what those classic movies do. They become part of your network of friends that you call upon from time to time. You just pop it in the DVD player or stream it or however you watch it. It's just like a nice, comfortable place. And you know what? I'm learning something else.
And you talk to people that have the same friend. Like, let's talk about our buddy. How about this? Here's what I love about my buddy.
Let's talk about his wife, Ellen.
When your buddy did this, because it doesn't make any sense when my buddy didn't bring the bigger boat.
Yeah. And then my other buddy's buddy went to the Bahamas, even though he can't. Anyway, that doesn't matter. That's a whole different conversation. Oh wow, Joe, this has been fantastic. I've had so much fun talking to you, and again, thank you for making some time. Before I sign off, is there anything else you'd like to share with the fans before we say farewell and adieu?
Gosh, I want to thank you for really having this account, for making this documentary. But for the Daily Jaws, it's really a testament to have a place where fans can kind of meet, and I'll just say thank you for inviting me into this world and for hosting the Daily Jaws. It's great. It's great to have around, and I treasure it. So
thank you so well, Joe. Personally, thank you so much. That really does mean a lot. This is Ross for the Daily Jaws, talking about Jaws for the 50th anniversary series. Plenty more interviews to come. But for now, I'll drink to your legs, and I'll bid you a fond farewell and adieu. That's it for today's deep dive into Jaws, the film that turned beaches into no-swim zones and created the summer blockbuster. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow, rate and review. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, just when you thought it was safe to stop listening, there's plenty more episodes to come. Thanks again to Stern Pinball for making this episode possible. Please be sure to check out the work of Minorities in Shark Sciences and also the Tourette's Association of America. That's it for now, guys, but I'll catch you next time. I'll drink to your legs.